Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. This is episode 10, number 10, and I am one of your co-hosts, Jason. I'm the owner of Outdoor Legacy Gear, specialize in thermal and night vision optics, and I've got my good buddy and co-host, Hans, from the world-famous HansETX YouTube channel. Hey, Hans.
Hey, what's going on, Jason? Hey, and I'm glad you put a little plug in there for Outdoor Legacy Gear because you were nice enough to send me the brand new, much anticipated, the FLIR Thermosight Pro PTS 536.
Yes,
and
sir.
Jason sent it to me and literally said, "Here, you can have it for a day and ship it back."
That's not exactly true.
No,
That's not exactly
I'm
true.
kidding. I'm over exaggerating, but I
Close.
got to have it for a few days and was able to go out last night and get some good video with it, and shot a couple hogs. Just posted that video. It's up on YouTube right now. If you go to HansETX, it's the last video I just posted. Jason, I know that you've got a video out, and these both of these videos are just quick reviews, really, because we haven't had them long enough to do a full detailed review on the scope yet. But we wanted everybody to get a chance to look at it, see a little bit of video through it. And I was lucky enough to drop a couple hogs with it last night.
Yeah, I've got that video out. Like Hans said, his is much better than mine because he does have an actual, a good hunt on there. I couldn't get on any hogs in the few days that I had it out in the field. And so I shipped it off to Hans. And, as usual, Mr. Bacon Pancakes just goes down there and gets right on them. But, yeah, his video is great. So go check that out. My video is just basically a short informational video, but we'll both be coming back soon once we get out in the field and get to spend, several weeks behind these optics. So, but hey, I tell you what, I've got something exciting I want to talk about. We last week on the show mentioned that we have a new phone number where all of our listeners can call in. They can leave feedback. They can leave comments. They can make suggestions for us, things they'd like to hear us talk about, or leave their thoughts on things that we have talked about. And we had a listener named Clint from Oklahoma, and Clint called in, left us a great message. He sounds like a super nice guy, and he had a great question about, the difficulty of determining the range of hogs or animals with thermal at night, trying to judge the distance. And I know that's something that both, Hans and I have talked about in private before, just in our conversations.
Yeah, definitely want to thank Clint for reaching out to the show, and we are going to be playing that recording here in the future. But we both kind of talked about it, and we're like, man, that's a whole show almost, because of there's no doubt that there's some depth perception adjustments that you have to make when doing thermal, but that's a great topic. And Clint, thanks for reaching out. We're definitely going to address that here in the near future, and we're going to play that recording as well.
Yeah, and I want to say real quick, if anybody else, if you want to call in, and leave your comments or questions, feel free to do it. That number is 903-833-4461. Let me give it again. It's 903-833-4461. You can also email us at thelatenightvisionshow@gmail.com, and either one of those places will get to us. But man, we'd love to have your voicemail. Like I said before, leave us your name, where you're from. We will not use your last name, your phone number, and nothing like that to identify you, but we'd love to have your comments so maybe we can discuss them.
All right, Jason, you ready for a guest?
I'm ready.
All right. So whenever Jason and I get together and we're trying to decide on people we want to have on the show, whether it's, just industry related or just different topics, we all have our wish list. And I'm going to tell you, I know that this next guest is at the top of both of our wish list as far as people we want to have on the show. But we have a special treat this week. We've got Tyler, the owner of Ultimate Night Vision, on the show with us. I'm pumped. I'm excited. Y'all stick with us after the break and check it out.
Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. And as promised, we've got our guest here with us, Tyler. He's the owner of Ultimate Night Vision. And for those that don't know, Tyler is he's owned Ultimate Night Vision for a long time, and he is just a mogul in the night vision and thermal industry. He's been around a long time. He's got one of the largest night vision and thermal companies in the United States, and he's a great guy. He's a good friend of mine, and we've done business together. And to just tell you, he's one of the nicest, honest guys that I've ever dealt with in this industry. So, Tyler, we're glad to have you here with us.
Glad to be here on the late Ultimate Night Vision show.
Oh, the zings already start. So,
yeah.
Let me pull out your list.
Thanks for the generous introduction. That was
you're very welcome. Pull out your list of people to never invite back, and we've got the first one here, the Ultimate Late Night.
Wow, I mean, we've compromised a lot to have Tyler on the show. Then, if we get the name right.
Yeah.
But hey, we're glad to change the name for one episode at least. Just to have you on here. We appreciate you being on here today, Tyler, and really, really with getting into the topics today, we got some questions for you, and really want to find out. Like Jason said, with you being in the industry for so long, all the insight that you have into the industry, with the growth that we've seen for the last 2 and 3 years, and really everything's exploded. Do you think that we've hit the pinnacle of the growth, or do you see it even getting, speeding up even more, or even a leveling off coming up in the next few years?
I think we're still tip of the iceberg. I think that the industry as a whole is still in its infancy on the commercial side, and there is a long way to go. We're still seeing numbers, doubling every year. So until that stops, there's a lot of room to grow. And I think there's a lot of reasons why the market continues to grow. But I think mainly it's just because the ratio of night hunters to all hunters is so small. So we're drawing from a pretty large pool, and there aren't a lot of people that in the grand scheme of things that night hunt. So,
right.
So a little growth in our industry is a big deal.
Well,
look at how big it is compared to like the entire outdoor industry. It's minuscule.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's also a lot of people don't really understand how small this industry is. When you're looking from the outside in, it seems like, oh wow, everybody's getting into this, and thermal scopes are expensive. But in reality, the number of these items that are sold every year compared to, daytime optics is just a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, it really is. The numbers are big on the price tags, but volume-wise, they're not nearly as big as other industries.
Well, and what I've noticed too, when I take people out hunting, or if somebody sees it through a thermal scope for the first time, they say, "Man, I've got to have this." But we got to face it. Across the country, the type of night hunting that can be done, or even done legally, is kind of limited. So what we're seeing though is this expansion of hogs into a greater part of the United States. And do you see more people from different parts of the country calling you up to order scopes because now they got animals to hunt at night?
Absolutely. A good example is North Dakota, or actually South Dakota. James O'Neill of O'Neill Ops, he was a big part of getting some legislation through that allowed landowners and guests with landowners, and now pretty much anyone, to hunt with larger calibers at night using night vision. It used to be illegal, but he was part of a small crew of people that went to the Capitol and got some legislation put through, and now we get a lot of business from South Dakota just because of that. So you see little pockets of that happening all over the nation.
That's pretty crazy. And just to think, and Jason, you opened my eyes to this. It's Oklahoma, right? Just our neighbors to the north of us that, hunting at night is not legal without certain permissions, and you have to kind of jump through hoops to get even permission to hunt at night.
Just 2 years ago, that changed.
Okay.
I hunt a property in Oklahoma. It used to be, when we first started hunting that property, it was you had to have a deprivation permit. It had to be approved by the game warden. Now you just have to send the game warden a text. And it used to be you had to tell them every single time you go. Now you just tell them once, and it's good for a year. And it's no longer illegal to use night vision. So that's a big deal because.
But Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong. It's still only hogs. You still can't kill coyotes at night.
Yeah, there's no fur bear. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's no fur season at all for bobcats, and I think the fur season for coyotes is only daytime.
Sure. Well, I want to ask this because we're talking about the industry, and I know it's a question that you've got to get. It's a question that I get, and it's just crystal ball thinking out there, but it's kind of a fun thing to do. With this industry blowing up, the prices coming down, the quality going up, the features and the specs have really increased and improved. And so right now we're at a point where we're seeing, much better pricing. We're seeing, we've got video recording, we've got rechargeable battery packs, built onto the unit, removable. We've got Wi-Fi streaming. Now we're going to have laser range finders. So I guess the question that I have and that I get all the time, and I really don't know the answer, I just want your opinion, is that what is next? Have we tapped out on features? I mean, are we going to have, they're going to throw the kitchen sink in now? Is the price just going to come down? What do you see there?
Well, I think we've kind of been, as far as technology goes, we've been kind of in the 1980s, mid-90s in regards to thermal scopes, because there just hasn't been a lot of competition. There hasn't been a lot of development. I mean, the same cores we have now are the same cores that were used 10 years ago. But, what I see, you have companies that have, like you said, put a kitchen sink in there, put all this crazy software on the unit, and it's just not really usable. The guys that want to go hunt just want to go hunt. So what I've started to see is companies, go a little bit closer to the Steve Jobs route, make things easy to use. Yeah, you want the features, but you don't want everything. You don't want 50 buttons or 50 selections on the scope to try to figure it out, because a lot of the guys, rednecks and technology aren't always compatible. So
I think he's talking about us, Hans.
Yeah,
that was a jab.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, I think miniaturization, making them smaller. I think that's the next big step. We started to see it, with stuff like the FLIR breach. There's some units like the Oasis line, the BAE line, the Skeeter and the UTMX, those units, which are miniaturized, but Fujifilm just acquired that line of products. So I think people are going that direction. They want to make them smaller, more performance, easier to use. Yeah. But as far as what features are going to be added, who knows? Hopefully not too much, because
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think so? So expanding on that, I get this all the time, and do you foresee? I think it's eventually going to happen, but do you foresee any time in the near future us moving above that 640 by 480 on the high resolution thermal core? Do you think we're going to get above that soon?
Probably. It already exists. It's already out there. There are different regulations that control some of that stuff, not all of it. ULIS makes a 1020 or 1080 core. I can't remember what the resolution is, but BAE has a HD core that's about the size of a shoebox. So we're still, those are still in the mid-90s for sure. As far as technology goes, there's no, those aren't going to happen in like this year, next year, anytime soon. Plus, a lot of companies they'll hold off, even if they have technology like that. They'll prime it, develop it, polish it, and then release it at the strategic point in time versus just get it out there.
So then we don't see anything, super high resolution HD above 640 coming out. Do you think that we've, kind of tapped out there around the 12 micron level, or do you think that, going lower in those thermal cores is a possibility, or even is it beneficial?
It's really not, because, the wavelength that you're seeing with thermal is a 7 to 14 micron wavelength. So you go any smaller than that, it's really hard to even detect a 7 micron. Yeah, so it just causes all kinds of problems. But another thing is that the sensitivity on the larger pixel pitches is actually a little bit better. So the smaller you get pixel pitch, the technically the less sensitive it is. doesn't seem that way because of some of the 12 microns look so good, but that's the science behind it. Is that just like a full frame camera is more sensitive than a 3/4 frame camera.
Very cool. Well, I'm going to tell you, Tyler, you bring up some interesting points because you talk about features moving forward, and we've got, like Jason listed off, we've got some great features on all these models and different brands coming out. But I really do like the idea of making the units smaller, like you talked about. And also, I can tell now that the manufacturers are trying to make these units easier to use. And the example that I have is back a few years ago when you had to adjust all the contrast, the different settings. There was about 10 of them you used to have to adjust, and now you have the preset modes just to make it a lot easier, And I'm already seeing that come in, and I really like the idea of that because it really makes it friendlier for all people to be involved and not feel like it's over their head.
Yeah, for those guys that spend time on the phone trying to, like all three of us most likely, probably. I don't know if you put customers, but yeah, it's there's a lot of time that goes into trying to explain how to use these things. So if we could get them to the point where they're just don't even need a user's manual, that would be ideal for the user.
Yep, absolutely. Well, so I'm going to turn the conversation a little bit to something I'm very familiar with creating content, and I just have to ask you about this because it's ever since we did the podcast a while back about social media and how there's been a big clamp down on a lot of social media platforms as far as the content that you can put out in the hunting content. Man, I know you're a humble guy, but your YouTube channel, Ultimate Night Vision, you get more views than all of us other hog hunters combined times about 5 or 6. So
no question.
You are, I mean, I just saw a video you put out, I don't know, maybe a couple weeks ago, and it had like a few million views in a couple weeks. It was amazing. But the question that I wanted to ask was, what do you, as far as YouTube, what do you see coming forward down the road as far as being able to share our content? Do you see it moving away from some type of platform like YouTube, or are we going to have to just fight through all the censorship?
Well, hang on. Before you answer, I want to add not just YouTube. Let's expand that to Instagram, Facebook, Google in general. I mean, just all social media. And what do you see long term?
Well, first of all, I don't want to take credit for our YouTube channel personally, all by myself, because we've got a guy, Rich, that works night and day on that channel. I mean, it's a collaborative effort. We've got people, myself, a couple, Rich and Todd, and then James and a couple other, I guess you call them partners or, friends of UNV that could contribute to that. So I think as far as the channel growing the way it has, it comes down to content. Content is king. Do you have content that people want to watch? But just lately we've kind of gained our stride and the channel's doing really well. But as far as the censorship goes, we deal with a lot of videos or posts getting age restricted or just deleted or just banned, altogether, and we spend a lot of time appealing those. And there just seems to be no rhyme or reason to any of it. I mean, it's just like it just depends on who you get when you appeal them. They think you're an evil. Does this person have a bias against evil hunters or not? So as far as it's extremely frustrating. When you go out and you spend all this time. I mean, you all know what that's like. It's frustrating. You go out and you spend all this time. You think you just got the best video in the world. You go upload it and then you look at it and it's like, it's age restricted, demonetized, and you're not showing on browse features. And it's just like, what can we do here? But I think, like a lot of stuff with politics, it just ebbs and flows. And sometimes we get shut down, and then sometimes it stays wide open, and we're able to put out whatever we want. But at the end of the day, I kind of look at it like we're going to get our message out somehow. If it gets to the point where it has to be somewhere else besides YouTube or Facebook, we'll go that route, because at the end of the day, they are a business. They can do what they want. They can tell us. I think people forget that too. It's a private, business.
Yeah.
So I could tell people I don't want to sell you a scope. That's my decision. Yeah. So we can, if we want to, talk about how we look at the situation as a whole. YouTube can do what they want. We're going to do what we want, and I think that we'll always find a way. We have to get creative, but we'll always find a way to get to the customer. Get a message out. That's it.
Go ahead, Hans.
Well, I know that you've got some great guys working with you, and what I want to know is how much am I going to have to pay to keep your great hog hunters out of East Texas? Because every time I look up, and every time I see a video, I'm like, man, they're killing my hogs. You know what am I going to
do? Man, they're just like, every time I turn around, there's somebody new popping up, and I love it. Some people say, oh my gosh, there's a new night vision dealer, or there's somebody else that's got a Instagram channel hunting hogs, and I'm like, hey, I'm all for it, man.
Yeah,
go for it. I mean, it's fun, and the most killingest guy I know is in East Texas. Well, two of them, anyways. And they don't seem to have any issues finding pigs, so I think they're going to be around. Yeah,
they're killing a bunch of pigs and a bunch of coyotes. I tell you, the hunts that they do and all the videos that y'all put together, they're first class, man. It proves that you can just put the content out there by itself and get a ton of views and a ton of support, and it really doesn't need a lot of fluff around it. But they do a great job out there.
We try to keep our videos fluff free.
Yeah, I'm all fluff, Well, so you mentioned hog population, and that leads into a question I wanted to ask you. What do you foresee? I mean, right now, the way it seems is that the hog population in Texas is obviously not in check. Seems to me that it is growing. We know that it's expanded. It's all through most of the South now. It's creeping north. I mean, Oklahoma and other northern states on the east side of the country. So, what do you see long term with hogs? Do you think this is something we're going to be able to get under control without some kind of new crazy measures, or do you think it's just going to keep growing, like crazy, like fire ants?
I think that kind of like global warming, we think we have a lot to do with it. Some people think they have a lot to do with it.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yeah. But really, it's more, nature is a much more powerful force. I see the what seems like the population increasing and decreasing year to year. Mm-hmm. Like for instance, last year was an awesome year. We saw pigs everywhere. The 2 years before that, couldn't find a pig. Couldn't pay somebody to find them. I mean, it was just like, where'd they all go? Mm-hmm. I think it has a lot to do with, as far as from year to year. I think the drought does, how much rain we get does more damage to the hog population than we do. But unless there's like you said, some crazy measure like poison or something like that, I don't see them getting in check. I mean, helicopters can't do it. We're stacking up, a couple dozen on most hunts, and they're still there when we go back. So I think unless Mother Nature decides that the pigs are out, or Texas Ag Commission decides that they want to take them there.
Jason,
they're going to be here to stay.
Did you hear that, Jason? He said a couple dozen pigs on a hunt. He kind of put that in there. That's like That's like 6 videos for me.
Yeah, you don't understand. Sometimes us East Texas boys over here down in these deep woods, we can't get more than 4 out in the pasture at one time. However, I do know Rich and them. They're close by, and they stack them up. But I'm glad you said that too, because it's about the population, kind of ebbing and flowing, because I'm actually seeing that on my own place right now. Last year we had hogs like crazy. I was killing hogs all the time. And this year it's just like, I've killed hogs, no question, but a lot less than last year. I'm just not seeing them. And we've been right here, particularly where I'm at, in extreme drought for about the last 2 months. And so I've been telling Hans, this is a catch-22. It's my own place. I live on it. I don't want my pasture destroyed, so that's good. But then I'm like, there are times, though, I do need to go demo a scope.
Let's be real. Come on. Yeah. Everybody wants the pigs around. Let's be real.
Exactly.
But the farmers, they don't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I want that's the thing. I want some hogs to shoot at, but I'm not going to lie to you. I spend a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of effort out there, disking, tilling, replanting grass, and it gets old. But so I just want just enough to shoot at.
Exactly. A couple of the kind that don't root.
Yes, that's it.
Non-rooting hogs.
Well,
develop a gene strain of non-rooting hogs.
It's funny is my wife, she could really care less about me hog hunting until a bunch of hogs destroyed our front and backyards, and then she was like my biggest fan of telling me to get my butt out there every night and shoot hogs. Well, so I know you're a busy guy, with everything you're running over there. But whenever you do get a chance to get out and do some hunting, what's your go-to rifle and your ammo? We got to hear it.
Oh, I swap back and forth. Usually my go-to is either a blackout, 300 blackout SBR, and then I'll shoot that for a while. Then I'll get pissed whenever a pig runs off, and then I'll go to my 308 Scar, and then I'll carry that shoot that for a while, and then I'll get pissed because it's too heavy, and I'll go back to the blackout. So I usually just kind of do this back and forth.
Oh gosh,
back and forth over the course of. Yeah. It's like it's summertime. I'm not carrying that Scar around. It's wintertime. I don't mind it at all. Yeah, that's what I go back and forth to. And honestly, I have quite a few rifles, but I just for sake of ammo, not having to buy 10 different calibers, I just stick with two, blackout and 308.
Yeah.
Any ammo brand specific that you want to share with us? You want to give us
Maker.
Right.
Yeah, Maker. Maker actually makes bullets for a lot of companies. I think G2 and Gorilla and Cavity Back and some other bullet brands are actually custom Maker bullets. But the solid copper on a CNC machine, they expand much more consistently, and we just see a lot more bang flops.
Maker's great. I tell you, I used it in a 223, and I could, take a body shot on the hog and put him down with a Maker. And it's a great company, and I got a chance to speak with Paul over there, and it seems like some stand-up guys over there.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Yeah.
Yep.
So what would you say to the guy? Because I get this question all the time: is man, I'm on a budget here, and I just can't spend $2 around. What would you say? Do you have any alternative for the guy who says, give me something that's just a little bit cheaper than this, super high-end stuff?
I'd say you can buy a 50-cent round and shoot 4 at them, or you can buy a $2 round.
There's a businessman for you.
There you go. That's right. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, good bullets. Well, first of all, you got to be able to hit them. So that's the number one ammo advice is go shoot. Second, shooting a good bullet is kind of like buying a nice thermal versus cheaping out and going the long way around.
It is, 'cause you're gonna end up spending the money 2 or 3 times by the time you get there.
Exactly.
Sure. Well, look, Tyler, I know you're busy, and we just want to say thanks for coming on to the show. We've really enjoyed having you on.
Absolutely. It's fun.
Well, hey, tell us real quick, if people want to get a hold of you, if they want to find you, look you up, where do they need to find you at?
HansETX.com.
All right. You heard it, folks.
That is where we stay. That's where we are all day, every day.
Okay, all right. Good deal. Well, look, we really appreciate you all for tuning into this episode. We hope that you have enjoyed it, and we will. We're going to have Tyler back sometime, as long as he doesn't take over the show and try to rename it the Ultimate Late Night Vision Show. But
it's the Ultimate Night Vision Show.
You got to get the name right.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to pay a royalty or something. So, we do appreciate everybody listening, and as always, you can find us on all the social medias: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and we would love to hear your feedback on what you think about this show. If you've got any questions or comments, send them to us. And as always, we appreciate you listening, and we'll see y'all next week.